Well, Rory, a lot's been said and written since the Ulster final. I'm sure you've heard and seen it all, but time to move on now. It's Galway on Saturday in Croke Park. Not where you wanted to be, as you said to me after the Ulster final, but where you find yourself. So just get on with it.
Yeah, that's the way the nature of life and definitely the nature of football. So it is, you set out with great plans, and we had great plans going to Clonus, but unfortunately on the day we didn't come out victors. So we have to deal with Galway now. And listen, we're very grateful to have the 13 days rather than what would have been the old way, 6 days, and give ourselves a good chance to recharge the batteries.
Yeah. What's the mood been like in the camp since that? Because obviously losing Ulster final is disappointing.
You can imagine the first few days, naturally there's huge levels of disappointment. So there's tiredness and there's crankiness, but then the mood lifts and we realise that very much we're in the All-Ireland series, so we definitely wanted to win the Ulster title. It's gone now, there's no point crying over spilt milk, so it's very much focused on Galway now and getting back one game back to the level we would have hoped to be in.
Yeah, Galway coming in with a bit of momentum obviously through the qualifiers, and sometimes that can be a big advantage, and we saw last weekend what can happen with provincial beaten finalists as well, Rory.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Listen, I think that is their 5th game, a bit like ourselves, and they've won 3 of them, and they played 2 games against Ulster teams now, the last 2 games, Derry and Armagh. They're coming in with momentum, but at the same time, if we look at the Ulster Championship as a whole, we had 4 good competitive games against really quality opposition, and we came out, on the wrong side of a very tight game against Monaghan, but overall we'd feel it was a good Ulster Championship. At the same time, we can learn from it now. We're in a good position to push on.
Yeah, something you said to me before, and I suppose after the Ulster final, still be concerned. You felt you weren't scoring enough, and that was evident as well with those wides in the second half, particularly. Unlike Donegal, when there's so much on top in a game.
No, that'd be disappointing. A lot of the shots were good shots to have. Technically we just didn't execute them. And probably a wee bit against Derry as well. So that's something we're going to have to work on now. And we're going to have to up our scoring return. We can't go the long periods we have been there in a couple of the recent games without scores.
Yeah. Obviously, Croke Park, good to get back in there again. It's a big pitch. What kind of a game do you expect from Galway? Because they've changed their style a little bit in the last year or two as well, Rory.
They have, yeah. I think they've realised maybe the way the football's gone, and they've been very traditional for a long time. So they have, but they've adapted to it, and they've ground out 2 great wins against Derry and Armagh. We're very much in control of both those games. And we'd expect, maybe not the typical Ulster game, but a fairly defensive approach from them.
Yeah, and that's no harm getting away from the Ulster situation as well, because we knew going into Ulster it was going to be a dogfight right the way through Tyrone, then Armagh, then Derry are down, then probably Monaghan. That's the way it turned out, and we knew what type of games those were going to be. Yeah,
there's no doubt, and from a coaching and a playing perspective, it was very repetitive. We were getting a wee bit fed up of it. So you're right, it's great to get to Croke Park, great to be playing somebody new, and there's a great freshness about that as well.
Yeah, offensively you'll be looking then for improvement, obviously, in the scoring side of things.
Yeah, listen, I'd be happy with the number of chances, point scoring chances we created, but we'll hope to finish them off a wee bit better. We realise against Monaghan it was difficult to create goals as well, but that's something we're going to have to work on as well.
Yeah, Rory, you've been very loyal to the squad that's been there, and the first 15 hasn't changed much. Carroll's obviously a big loss to you this weekend with the experience he brings to it, but you just got to get on with that situation. Are you thinking maybe in terms of rather that's an enforced change, maybe other changes?
There'll not be too many, Charlie. Like you said, we've been loyal to the boys that have been doing well, and I was reading somewhere where Chelsea last year used less players than anybody else in the Premiership. It's just a thing that's out there in the media that Donegal don't change around their team. We like to stick with a fairly tried and trusted regime. We've a few fellas there that very much can come into the reckoning. As you said, Carroll's out of the equation. Maybe there might be one other change. That'll be it.
Yeah, and you have boys who don't like losing and usually react very well when they do lose, and we think back to the National League where there was disappointing results. If my memory serves me right, each time that happened there was a good bounce back then, Rory.
There was, yeah. Listen, one of the things about our lads, they have great heart and they've great character and great inner determination, and we'd be hoping for a good response. Everybody's pride gets hurt when they get beaten, whether it's League, Mechanic Cup, but definitely in Championship, and we're just very grateful now. We have a chance now 13 days later to come round.
Yeah, and the last 15 minutes, of course, we just didn't get there, but it was a good solid performance in that last 15 minutes, because at 5 points down in the way the game was going, it could have slipped away to a big defeat very easily.
It could have. Listen, when Monaghan pushed it out to 11-6, there were serious questions asked of ourselves, but we dug in, and without really getting into great momentum, because the scores were hard to come by, we dug it out and we got within a point, and we were the point up. I think it was 4 minutes of normal time and 3 minutes injury time. You'd have definitely fancied us to get the equaliser, if not push on, but it didn't happen, and you have to give great credit to Monaghan. Monaghan are a very difficult team to play against. They make make a lot of teams look very tired and very ordinary, and they did the same to ourselves.
Yeah, the target obviously a quarter final against Mayo, but you can't get ahead of yourself for that. You've got to deal with whatever challenge Galway are going to present and what we've seen from them so far, and as you mentioned earlier on, that's not going to be easy.
No, it's not. They're very much an upward curve. They made the quarter-finals last year. They've had a tougher draw this year, and they've got through. They've new management, so they've always had very skillful players. They've had 221 teams won All-Irelands recent years, so we know we're up against a formidable challenge, but like any day, if we play well and we bring anywhere close to our A game, we'll be very hard to beat.
Yeah, and finally, football's a funny game, and and after a defeat it only takes a one to get people right up there again, ready for the big challenges ahead after that.
It does, yeah. Listen, Charlie, you know, whether we won or lost, we were parking the Ulster Championship, so it is. We'd made that clear from the outset, and we would have loved to be winners. We're not, you know, but sometimes when you lose you look a wee bit deeper into yourselves and you understand maybe where you were going wrong, whereas if you'd have scraped over the line you mightn't have analysed yourself as much, and we'd be looking for a big improvement and to push on and to get into the quarter final.